Alright, hello everyone. I'm here with Marcus Luong, and the reason why I'm making this video is that I actually really like Mark. He's like one of the few people that no matter how bad your mood is, if Marcus shows up, you know, your day immediately gets better. But I don't think he likes me as much as I like him. So I kind of I kind of use this interview as an excuse to be able to talk to him, basically. So.
Oh man, Petr has such little faith in me. I like Petr. I like you. You're cool. It's true. It's true. Within the first 24 hours of meeting Petr, that he did propose to me. But
Did I really
said
do that?
no. No, that was he wasn't gonna get his green card that easily. We'll just say that.
I mean, even until to this day, you know, the proposal is still there. So like, you know.
Yeah, I think about it. I think about it often, really.
Actually,
maybe when we're both like 40 and old, and I've given up on women or something.
Don't I look like a woman a little bit? I can try more for you.
No.
No, not good enough.
It's not about that. But yeah, I'm glad. I was very surprised that Petr was interviewing me, especially because the other people being interviewed were like Hall of Famers and like literally like the best players of all time, and one random like legacy moto grinder or whatever. But
as I said, well, first of all, I really wanted to talk to you. Also, I think a lot of people like you, and there are just like so many like Brett Nelsons and stuff, right? And I just like want to keep posting videos, so like every now and then it's like
yeah.
I'm not trying to be insulting or anything, you know.
Yeah, no. I get it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I don't have like the storied career that spans like over a decade or whatever, but
I just think it's like a good combination, right? Because if I have like only people that aren't that well known, no one is really going to go to the channel. But you can have like, I feel like your every third interview is like someone like Brad or whatever, and then you just mix it up with like people that maybe I know, and some people know them, but maybe not all of them. It's like a good way to introduce them and stuff. So I don't know. I think it's fine.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. I mean, also, there's probably diminishing returns to like interviewing people that have been interviewed a million times. Like how many interviews of Paulo can I find? Like just hundreds, probably.
I don't actually think there are like that many, just because Magic people usually tend to be super lazy. So unless it's like part of a coverage and the people doing it are actually kind of forced by the company to do it, there aren't actually that many like Paulo interviews, I don't think. I'm sure you will be able to find some, but probably not as many as you would want, I think. But like,
right, yeah. I mean, it depends on like if you compare it to like esports celebrities or whatever. Yeah, those people actually get interviewed like hundreds of times. And in Magic, yeah, I agree. It's like if you do find interviews of pros, it'll be by coverage, and like a lot of Magic has been like made that way is through official channels, official means. So I mean, there has been a huge boom in content creators like independently doing stuff, but at the end of the day, even the MPL is sponsored by the company itself instead of by independent sponsors. So yeah, I mean that does, the company itself does drive a lot of its own content.
Well, I knew Marcus even before this, but when we got to know ourselves the most was actually like a year ago. I just moved to Japan, and there was this Pro Tour, but because I just moved to Japan, I didn't really have like a team, so I didn't really know who to stay with during the Pro Tour, and I ended up staying with like Oliver Tew, Marcus Long, Oliver Tomaiko and stuff, and that's when we like got to hang out, I guess. So I know you because of that, but I think a lot of the people who maybe watch this video don't really know who you are. So can you like maybe introduce yourself, some of your like good finishes, like what you're up to lately? Just like talk about you.
Yeah, I mean I love talking about myself.
Who doesn't?
So yeah. So I guess in the context of Magic, I first learned how to play Magic during some Innistrad pre-release. Uh, it's the real slow build up here. I didn't play again for a long time until in college I got injured playing rugby, and I was looking for something to do over the summer because I was bored, and one of my friends told me like, hey, there's a Magic shop nearby, let's go. And I'm like, okay, like I haven't really played Magic in a while, so yeah, let's try. This was in like 2015. So in 2015, I I learned about like Grand Prix and stuff, and I got to play my very first one at the end of the year, and it was a pretty memorable event for me because I was dirt poor at the time, and luckily there was a Grand Prix happening in San Diego, which I went to school in Santa Barbara, California, so it wasn't that far of a drive really. I mean, and it was pretty cheap to attend, and so I played a horrible deck, Sphinx's Tutelage, which ended up winning the tournament, but the deck was really, really bad.
Was it like a blue-red deck or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It played the enchantment that like mills your opponent when
And
you
like
draw a
magmatic
card.
insights and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. That deck was completely terrible.
Yeah, it was really bad. I always lost to it as well, though.
Yeah, no. It was a deck that was just like really frustrating to lose to, and was very, very bad.
Well, I also tend to play decks that are bad against these type of strategies, right? Like I usually play like these black-green mid-range decks with like a lot of removal and planeswalkers and stuff. So like
Exactly.
yeah.
A lot of good players do tend to play decks like that, where like you want to have a solid game against everything, and then someone plays the really dumb turbo mill deck, and you're just like, what am I supposed to do? But I was pretty new at the time, and I was just playing a deck that looked fun, and my deck featured 3 Jace Vryn's Prodigy for some reason, not 4. I have no idea why. And I did very badly. But starting at in 2016, I was like, you know what? Like I thought I was pretty smart. I was very wrong.
I think you are decently smart. It's not that bad. That's not that bad.
Thank you. But I really tried to qualify for Pro Tour starting in 2016, and it wasn't until like 2018 that I finally qualified, and I had to play against Jacob Wilson twice in an RPTQ to get there, and I had to beat him in the finals, and I'm pretty sure it's funny, I think that's like the only Pro Tour he's missed in like the last like 5 years or whatever, because like some random scrub beat him at an RPTQ. So that along the way though, I had made friends with Ethan Gajewski, who introduced me in turn to Mark Jacobson and Oliver Tomajko, and that kind of that really helped, because it's hard to make it in the pro scene when you don't have pro friends, right? And that's something that I figured out really early on. I think that it was just like it's way easier to.
Do you mean just like the introduction to like other people, or you just like mean leveling up your game?
Both. I mean, it's hard to it's easier to stay motivated to play the game when your friends are playing the game at a high level, right? Because that's motivation, not just like for yourself, but like, hey, if I qualify for these tournaments, I get to play with my friends. Like that's like as clean a motivation there is.
Also, just like if they are your friends, you just like talk to them, and as you talk to them, you just like get to talk about Magic, and that makes you better, even if you're not like focusing on that, or
Exactly. And so I'll get back to that later, which passively talking about Magic and how important that is. But yeah, like when your friends are really good at Magic and you talk to them, like you said, you improve at the game as well just through little interactions. And I think I used to be really, really, really bad at Magic, like horrendously bad. and not to say that I'm very good now, but it was definitely a lot of learning. And you don't have to be a natural to be good at Magic.
Was there like one particular thing that you like realized that you like were doing really badly, and then you're like, oh, this is how it actually works, and you like really worked on that and you improved in that part?
Yeah, I mean, it's a series of things that you learn that help you improve. So in Santa Barbara, I randomly ran into Logan Nettles at a pre-release, and I had no idea who he was. And we started talking, and someone, I found out that he was Jabberwocky, who is a very famous moto grinder, and Logan and I are still good friends to this day. And he really helped me when I first started, because I just like I said, I was very poor in college, and he would lend me decks on Moto in exchange for helping him test for the MOX events. So that was really big, because before I was making a lot of deck decisions based on what I could afford. And so like when you're playing suboptimal Magic, you don't get to explore everything. You're making decisions and you're justifying them because of cost. And so just that first exploration, being able to play with all the whatever cards I wanted, that was like a big first step. And as far as like things that you learn that like really help you improve, it happened during my first GP Top 8. Like not and this was Sacramento in 2018. And Oliver Tomiko, so I explained I played a lot of Magic Online, and on Magic Online you just want to play really quickly. Like, playing quickly means you get to finish your leagues faster, you get to get more chests, like it was valuable to play faster. But Oliver one time was just like, do you like think about your plays before you make them? and it's a really, it's a little condescending, but when you think about it, like, you watch a lot of Magic players, and if you ask them why they make a play, a lot of the time they're not going to give you a good answer. They're just like, oh, it felt good or whatever, or like
what I also think, I don't know if this is exactly what you mean, but what I also find to be super common is that there is like some kind of a spot, and if the person finds like a line that like is pretty good, or it puts you in a winning position, he doesn't necessarily think if there is like a potential line that's like even better than that. They just like, if I do this, then I'm like in this board state, and that's good, and they just do that, and they don't really think further.
Yeah, no, definitely. If there is thinking, you're right. It does stop once they find something they're satisfied with, instead of exploring all the possibilities. And so a big level up for me was just like taking a moment to pause and think about the outcome of my plays, and that was like a really big moment for me. And I know it sounds really dumb, right? Like, duh, think about your plays. But before, I was playing largely based on instinct, because like, oh, like this seems good, so I'm gonna do it. And so like that was what drove a lot of how I played, was like, oh, I'm gonna make this play, and I'm not really thinking like, oh, if I play this, these are the things that they could do. Like they have a range of responses they could make, and how am I going to respond to those responses? It was not at all like that. It was like, oh, I have 5 mana, I have this 5 mana card, like that seems like a good option, like that was kind of just the way that I play Magic, and I imagine a lot of people also play Magic that way. So yeah, that was a pretty big moment for me, and it just completely changed the entire way I think about Magic, from not just playing decks, but building decks, drafting decks, sealed pools, etc. And a lot of this stuff you're not going to get. A lot of advice you can get from anyone, but it's not until you interact with some of the top level players that they tell you the things that are obvious, and it really clicks with you.
I also think that it might be case only with Magic. I don't know if it's the case in like other endeavors, but people just tend to think that they're like pretty good or like really good, and they think that they don't really make that many mistakes. So you know, until you like get to interact with like the pros or like really good players that just like sit down with you, you know, maybe you go play a draft together or something, you know, at Magic Online, and then they're like, oh, you're doing this wrong, you should do that, stuff like that. And like, oh, I'm actually playing really badly. But if that never happens, you're like just thinking that you're getting unlucky, or that, you know, I don't know, that you're like playing pretty well, and maybe you did like one or two mistakes during the game.
Yeah.
You know, they don't see that they should have boarded 4 cards differently. They should have played 2 cards main deck differently. They should have like picked their deck completely differently, and that they made like 5 mistakes.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a big part of it. And I wouldn't say that the only issue is like some sort of baseline arrogance. There are players out there that do realize that they play badly, but they just like don't do anything about it, or think that they can't do anything about it. You know, like how often do you see people say like, "Oh, I made a play," like, "Oh, I'm bad," and like
that happens as well, yeah.
Yeah, like they just stop there. Like, there's nothing. Oh, well, I'm bad. I guess I can't do anything about it. And it's not true. Like, I used to be very, very bad. Like, it's crazy how bad I was. Like truly astounding.
I mean, everyone was like bad at the beginning, right? Like, you cannot really avoid that. It's just, you know, that's the process that you have to go through.
Some people think that there's some like genius, and it's not genius. It's effort. You know.
And then there is Oliver too, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, he's really a.
Knowing Oliver, I just cannot imagine that he's playing that much. I might be wrong about this, but
well, he does play a lot.
Okay.
He does. I mean, you know, he's going off to work at WotC now, but he did play quite a bit of Magic, and you know, you have to like coax stuff out of him to really understand why he would do something.
Yeah, like anytime I want to talk to him about like even his like deck choices, he's always just like, he doesn't really want to talk about it, and he just like replies with like short answers to just like get rid of me. So it's like really hard to know what he's thinking, but I think he's really smart.
Yeah, no, I mean, so earlier we were talking about, you know, surrounding yourself with friends that in the process of just interacting, you become better at Magic. And you know, we had a really stupid team, Team Peppa Pig.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was, that's kind of what it was about. It was just like a bunch of friends that we just like talk about nonsense, and then sometimes in the middle of talking about nonsense, we'll have an idea for like a sideboard card. In case, for those at home, if you don't know who the team was, it was me, Oliver Tomiko, Oliver Tew, Noah Walker, Roshan Epen, Max Mick, Ben Friedman, and Jacob Wilson. And you know, Jacob doesn't talk very much, as some of you at home may know. But yeah,
I thought that Jacob hated me at the beginning because he never talked to me at all. But then I was like, oh, he just does it to everyone.
Yeah, he's, you know, he's a little prickly, but yeah. I mean, and just like, it's just daily. Like, well, we won't even talk about Magic most days, even like, you know, until we're really testing for a Pro Tour. But even then, it's a lot of goofing off and just like being around friends that you're happy to talk to. So yeah, I think that's really important, is like having friends that, you know, you're happy with and talking to often, but also like sometimes there's moments of genius, brilliance there. So yeah, I mean, the friends really do make Magic.
Mm-hmm. So you said you top 8 one GP top 8. I think you have like 2 more after that.
Yeah, so I have another top 8 in Modern Horizons in Seattle in 2019, and then it feels like it was ages ago, but earlier this year, I top 8 at GP Austin. I made it to the finals of GP Austin.
Oh, wow!
Finals, but that was Modern, and it's funny. I did have a really big change in the way I approach choosing decks. In my first 2 Pro Tours, I tested a lot with Max McVitie, who's, to this day still one of my very, very, very close friends. But he always plays aggro decks. I don't know.
I think I lost to Max like 2 times or something.
Yeah, I mean, Max always plays aggro decks in Constructed, and I was just like, okay, it works for him, so I'm gonna try it. And so I played aggro decks my first 2 Pro Tours and did horribly.
I hate playing aggro decks.
Then I was like, you know what, this isn't working for me. Like, I'm just gonna choose decks that I like instead. And starting from that point, I decided the formats after that. It started with like Esper Control in Standard. That was Guilds of Ravnica. Ravnica Allegiance Standard. And I went to go play Grand Prix, and I went 10-5 or whatever. Not amazing, but I finally was playing a deck that I really liked, and I felt the difference. Like you can feel the difference when you play a deck that you feel very comfortable with.
Yeah.
And is also powerful, of course. You can't just play a pile of garbage. But yeah, and then from that point on, it really made a difference, a big change for me. The Grand Prix after that, I went 12-3 with War Prison. I went 8-2 in Constructed at the Pro Tour after that. It was just like a really big change. Where like playing decks that are powerful, but you like them.
So what are the types of decks that you usually tend to like? Is it like some like mid-range decks, or like what is it?
I really like hard control. I like control decks, but I'm not like a Wafo type. I like playing proactive cards.
Like, can you name an example of like a hard control deck that also plays proactive cards? You mean like Planeswalkers, or
back when like Teferi was like a thing?
Okay.
Like Teferi was a very good card that like inspired me to play control. I was like, oh, okay, it's a win condition that's like actually good instead of having to play like a pile of crap. I also like the way I play Magic now, which is very contested topic on like how you should be playing Magic, but I think of all the ways my opponent can beat me, and then try to stop all of them. Like that's just kind of the way I play Magic. It's like I try to.
Yeah, I am kind of the same.
Yeah. So War Prison was like probably the best deck for that. Like if anyone here has ever played War Prison, it's exactly like the game plan is exactly to think of all of the ways your opponent's deck could beat you, and then make sure that none of them work. It's like in chess where you make preemptive moves. Like you're like, okay, my opponent's best play is like, knight f4 or whatever, so I'm going to play a pawn to stop them from making that move. That's exactly how I play Magic. And so like that's the kind of like decks that let you do that, decks that give you options to stop what your opponent's doing. Those are decks I like, and also I like playing really absurdly broken decks when no one else is playing broken decks. So like when Hogak was legal, at every point, anyone who didn't play Hogak was making a terrible mistake. So like I enjoy punishing people for like not playing the best deck. So you play Hogak and your opponent doesn't, and you're just a massive favorite. Like when Oko was legal, and I played Urza at GP Austin. That was also absurdly broken because every time I played against someone who didn't play Oko and Urza, I crushed them easily, and then if they did, then I just drew better, which is an important thing. It's weird because I used to practice a lot for Constructed, but when I started winning, I started practicing much less. And I think that's just the nature of
I've been there myself. Yeah.
Like decks are just way better now, and so like if you're playing with good cards, they often tell you how you should play them. So it's much easier to get away with no practice, I think. But
how about nowadays? Like we don't really get to go to GPs and stuff. Maybe you're like focusing on other things. I don't even like know if like Magic was like you just like to play with your friends and you ended up being pretty good, or if it was like big part of your time. So how it's going with that?
So ever since organized play kind of imploded, I stopped playing. The last event I played was the Arena Pro Tour or whatever it was called. And that kind of was a sour taste in my mouth. As I explained before, a lot of my time in Magic was focused on hanging out with my friends, and you can't really do that playing online. So yeah, I mean, I haven't really played much since. But as far as if Magic was a big part of my life before, I mean, I was a student, and so, like, if anyone has been to college, you kind of know that, like, a lot of your time is your own, even though you have studies. And I was obsessed. Magic was an obsession for me for, a solid year or two. I don't. If anyone out there has also been obsessed, I'm sure Petr can attest to being obsessed.
I am from like, I started playing Magic when I was like 19. I'm 26, about to be 27, and the obsession is still there. So
Yeah,
maybe I'll get rid of it at some point, but I think it's unlikely.
It's like you're taking a shower and you're shampooing your hair, and all you can think about is Magic cards. It's like that. That's just kind of how it is. It's like leading up to an event, you're just like going through all the plays.
To be fair, I actually thought it was like a bad thing at like certain points in my life, and I tried to get rid of it, but I actually was like a lot less happier as a result of that. Like, this just gives me like a thing to like think about all the time, like to improve on and stuff like that. And when I lost that, my life just became kind of like empty, if that makes any sense. You just like,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to feel.
Yeah,
you can't just like, if something consumes you like that, like Magic really did consume me. When something consumes you like that, you can't just like loathe yourself for thinking about it, like, or you can't just like cut that out and replace it with nothing. So like, I have stopped playing Magic in the last few months because of the nature of organized play. But I've replaced it. I'm in the process of looking for jobs right now for software engineering, and so I've been practicing and learning a lot about coding, and that's taken up my time recently. But I imagine once Magic comes back, to real life play, that things will change. Like, I'll be much. The obsession never really goes away. Like, I still look at previews, even though I have no intention of playing with any of the cards. So, and I think that if you want to be good, if you want to make it onto the train, onto the Pro Tour, I mean, they've made the process somewhat easier now, but there needs to be some level of obsession there. Like you don't have enough hours in the day to, if you're dedicating time to learning Magic, there's just not enough hours in the day. Like, it's just, you can't just like block out time like, oh, I'm going to spend 3 hours today learning Magic. Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah, it's not how it works.
You think about Magic while you're eating, while you're showering, before you go to sleep, while you're on the toilet. Like that's kind of that's where all the time comes from. It's like all the passive moments. It's like you're doing, sometimes like you're just laying in bed doing nothing, and then all of a sudden, like, you're thinking about hands for the deck that you want to play.
Yeah, I sometimes even get to a point where, like, when I'm like preparing for a tournament super hard, I just get into a point that I'm just like thinking about like constantly, right? And then like I meet like a person, and he like starts talking to me, and he's like telling me that he bought like shoes yesterday. I'm like, well, can I just like stop talking to you and just like think about my own thing? Like, I don't know. It might be bad, but I definitely understand.
Someone told you that they were buying shoes, huh?
What? That was just an example. It wasn't like.
Oh no! Yeah, it's funny because if you guys don't know Oliver Tamago very well, he very much likes purchasing shoes.
Oh, I actually didn't realize the connection at all. But yeah, it's true. It's true. I actually phoned with Oliver like 2 weeks ago or something, and yeah, he showed me all of his shoes. I think it's kind of creepy, to be honest, but
he has a lot of shoes. I mean,
he also spends like infinite money on like these products for your skincare and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he has more than he could possibly use. It's concerned.
Until
Maybe he'll be willing to show if he comes on for an interview. Maybe he'll be willing to show the skincare collection.
I was thinking about it. He's like one of the very few people who propose to do it themselves. So like,
it's surprising considering how many people you messaged that he had to like do it himself. But that's very Oliver.
I didn't reply it, so
okay.
It's like 50-50 that I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. That's funny. I do have an interesting Magic memory.
Okay.
That maybe people will be interested in hearing about. So, like I said, I'm friends with Logan Nettles, and he is cousins with Reed Duke. And in my very first Pro Tour, I had like a really weird flight that was, Monday really, really early in the morning, and I had nowhere to stay Sunday night. So I got to stay Sunday night at the Pantheon Airbnb because I had nowhere else to go, and I got to team draft with some of the greatest of all time that, some of which haven't even been interviewed. It was me, Kai Bude, Reed, Yelger, Viersma, Ben Rubin, and Logan. And so obviously it's just like me, like my very first PT. Like I said, I'm very bad. And
did you free over easily?
No, really no. But at the time I thought I didn't realize I was bad. I thought I was good. I thought I was good. And I had made it to the Pro Tour by drafting, so I was like, I can do this. Like, this is something I could do. And I was being passed to by Yelger, and my deck was just completely terrible. Like it was just unbelievable trash. And he just completely like savaged me. Like he just I 0-3'd very badly. And it was like a really, really humbling experience, playing against some of the greats, and not only playing against them, but I got to chat with them, and they imparted with me some knowledge.
You mentioned team draft. I just like want to ask about one thing that I like always think about when I'm team drafting. So like, when you talk to pros about team drafts, like, everyone always wants to sound smart, so they like talk about this, like, you put them in the color and then you jump into it and stuff. But a lot of the times you're like not really sure if that person is in the color, and if you do that, you're like you sabotage yourself for sure, right? And you're not really sure that you're sabotaging the other person. Like, I just always thought that people just like saying it because it like seems that it makes sense and it like makes them look smart, but I'm actually not sure if it's like actually valid to do that.
It can really feel that way.
Like, for example, you obviously don't want to pass him like a broken rare, or like broken uncommon. That stuff is like obvious. But when people talk about this, they like say, well, just pass him like a good black card, another good black card, and then you jump into black or whatever. But what if you like first pick a green rare and he just didn't take it or something,
And then you're cutting your teammate. Yeah. So I used to kind of be unsure about like how skilled team draft really is, but I randomly made friends with David Root and Gabe Sang. After I teamed with a Canadian misplaced ginger, and I met them and started talking, and I started talking to Gabe Sang a lot about draft. And he really likes draft, and I didn't really get it. I didn't really get it, like the deep intricacies. But he was explaining to me how one time, how in team draft, like you can pass certain cards safely or pass or not, and it's a lot about like the texture of the packs, and so he would. I think this is in the format where there's no Rakdos, for instance, and there's deadweight. And a powerful red card, for instance. So he would be able to pass the powerful red card and the deadweight or whatever because Rakdos wasn't a color combination in Guild of Ravnica, and it's like intricacies like that. It's like, oh, like you can pass some powerful cards knowing that they can't take both of them. And it's in that team draft with Yelger, and the rest of the Pantheon or whatever. He passed me a Lyra Dawnbringer in Dominaria draft very confidently, and I didn't take it because I wasn't any. It was like pack 3, and I was not even close to being in white.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is a lot. There is something to that. I mean, yeah, I agree. They put a lot of playables in packs these days. So train wrecking someone is very difficult. You know, it's possible that you pass them and you pass to ends up with like a completely fine deck, and they go 1-2 or 2-1 or whatever, and then you end up with a pile of garbage. Like,
I mean, it definitely like influences some of your picks. You know, the fact that, you know, you play in teams and stuff. But I think for most part, you're just like trying to build a good deck yourself, right?
Yeah, you definitely want to build a good deck yourself these days.
It's just that like when you're sitting next to someone really famous and you end up in train wreck, people are like, oh, he like train wrecked him. You know, he was playing these mind games against him or whatever. But what probably happened was that you just like ended up in the same colors by accident most of the time. You know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens. But you know, when you're playing team draft, the important thing to realize is that your teammates will play against the cards you pass twice. So you have to be really conscious of what cards and what you know, decks you're passing, because you will play against all the cards you pass. It's not like in normal draft, it's like, you know, pack 3, you can pass like an Ethereal Absolution or a Glorybringer or whatever, knowing, you know, that you only have a smaller chance of playing against that, right? But every card you pass is going to be played against twice. So you have to be really sure of what cards you're passing, because it's so much more detrimental. Like, you'll never pass a Glorybringer in team draft, ever. Like, at any point, you could be black-green, you would never pass a Glorybringer. Just because, like, if the person, you know, you end up playing against the Glorybringer, that sucks. Like, no one wants to play against Glorybringer. And especially when, you know, team draft, there's often money on the line, you don't want to just give away money.
All right, I think we talked for I feel like 30 minutes or something. I had fun. Thank you for spending your time with me. If there is like still something you would like to say, you obviously can. But
yeah, this is a good place to wrap it up. For those out there that want to get better at Magic, or, you know, want to play as a pro, you don't have to be naturally talented. I'm not, and I played on the Pro Tour for a solid year continuously.
what does it even like mean to be talented? Like, it just means that you're like generally smart, or you just like kind of like get it, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's something a talented person could answer. but yeah, just, you know, work hard and make connections. That's everything in life.
And
it's
even if you
Magic
get
too.
there, it's not worth it because you're not getting anything.
That's true. Okay.
I probably shouldn't have said that, but yeah.
Yeah. You know, whatever. All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Petr.
See you guys.